Well, hello there, Kansas City. Steven St. John here with another episode of Hot Mic with SSJ. I'd like to thank Patrick Carter, KCFarmersAgent.com. Go local. Go Patrick Carter. He loves the show. He loves you. He loves his clients. KCFarmersAgent.com. Patrick Carter, not related to Clarence Carter. Also, CBD American Shaman for all your CBD needs. The vapes, the creams, the flour, all of edibles, whatever you need. Caramels are delicious. CBD American Shaman. Go to their website, go to a location, do it all. CBD American Shaman. Thank you very much as well. Right now, I'd like to introduce, again, sitting in, as he does from time to time with us, Todd Lebo, who is fact checker and historian for Hot Mic with SSJ. And our guest this week is former Royals reliever and regular contributor on the Border Patrol, Mr. Jamie Bluma. Good morning, Jamie Bluma. How are you?
I am wonderful.
You are wonderful.
Yes.
And so, again, you can listen to this podcast. If you're listening to it right now on Spotify, then you know that. But Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast, or watch it. If you're listening and you want to watch it, you can like and subscribe on YouTube, and it's a lot of visual aids.
Money roll in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Line my pockets with your hard-earned cash. That's what I want.
Cha-ching.
So we've been doing a series now where we talk to some of our regular guests to try to get an origin story. We did it with Frank Bowl. That ended up being 2 segments long. It could have been 4 because he's very old.
Yes.
Nick Leckie had a lot of fun stories. That ended up being 2 segments. We might have to do 2 segments here. We'll see how it goes. See how talkative you are.
Okay.
But the first thing is we have to take the training wheels off, and we got to get right to it. Show them the freedom of cursing into this microphone.
If you'd like to fucking curse, Bluma,
I'm a cursor.
we're in the bullpen down here. We're just some guys talking.
Cuss
I
with
like
us.
to fucking cuss.
There we go, Bluma.
I got to keep it together. When
Ben,
I'm
there's
teaching kids, man.
nothing
I
that
can't.
Ben loves more than when the guest cusses for the first time.
Just
It's
pretend we're
liberating.
down there. It's the 5th inning of a game. We're in the bullpen just shooting the shit, telling the story.
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
exactly right. So let's start off, Jamie, because everyone knows you. Everyone's heard you on the station. And so where are you from?
Was born in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Beaufort, South Carolina.
My dad was in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So my older brother was born in Selma, Alabama on a base. I was born in Beaufort, South Carolina.
What's that
on a
base called? That's not
shit.
Fort Hood's, Texas. What has it got a name?
You know what? I
should know
the
this,
answer.
shouldn't you?
I
Right.
should.
This
That's
is
all right.
fucking embarrassing.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
So you were born. So how long were you there for?
Not very long. And then we moved to Illinois. After Vietnam, my dad ended up going back to the University of Nebraska and getting a petroleum engineering degree. Mm-hmm. And he ended up in just outside of Chicago, a small suburb of Chicago, Lockport.
Okay.
And he was working for Texaco, and that's where my younger brother was born. There.
So then
we were
how old
kinda
are
all
you?
over the place. So
How
I
old
was
are you up in
kindergarten.
Illinois? You're up in-
Little.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Little. And then we moved from there because of the oil business and all that stuff to Duncan, Oklahoma, when I was in kindergarten.
And here we go. So then
Yes.
you're in Oklahoma.
Yeah, so we were there from kindergarten through my freshman year in high school, which was 87. My older brother had graduated from Duncan, Oklahoma, and then we moved from Duncan, Oklahoma to Owasso, Oklahoma, which is where I subsequently
Is that what
graduated.
when people say, where are you from, what do you say?
That's where I graduated high school.
Owasso?
Yeah, Owasso.
Yeah.
And you're not the only major leaguer from Owasso. Who else is it?
No, there's actually 4. I was the first, and then following me was Pete Cosma.
Right.
Made it to the big leagues with the Cardinals, playing the World Series with the Cardinals. And then Brian Flynn, former left-handed reliever for the Royals and a few other teams. He actually went to Wichita State as well. We'll cover that later on. And Dylan Bundy, who's still in the league right now.
So what were your interests when you were a young boy? Were you always a baseball player? Did you play football, other sports? What did you do?
Played football up until my freshman year. We moved when I was a freshman, like I said, and then football wasn't going to be my gig. I didn't like practicing 5 times to play one effing game,
Right.
And didn't like football that much. So once we left high school, once we left Duncan and moved to Owasso, football was done. And for whatever reason, I thank my parents for this, it seemed like we were always in a home that was on a cul-de-sac. So we kind of had a built-in baseball field all the time. I don't know if that was by by accident or whatever. And so we always had a place to kind of practice and stuff and throw in the yard. And Dad was an athlete in high school, not necessarily a one sport. He was more of a sprinter, actually. He held the state record in the 100 way back when in rural Nebraska. Yeah, small school. So he was a good athlete and obviously a Marine and a soldier and all that stuff, too.
So what did you run the 100 in?
I was a track. I mean, when we were younger, we did all that. You know, you did the presidential physical fitness test and all that stuff.
I never
and then
passed
we did.
that.
So I was a little chubby kid, so I didn't run the 100.
Not so
still
fast.
a chubby adult.
So for people, Owasso is Tulsa-ish.
Yes, just north, 10 minutes north of Tulsa. Yeah. Duncan is about an hour and 15 minutes south of Oklahoma City.
Right, so it's just kind of down there. But Owasso, I mean, it's like as far as big city goes, you're close to Tulsa if you want to go do something.
It's a bigger city now. I mean, 25,
it's
30
grown
years
a bunch,
later.
We drove through it when Richie played down in Tulsa. I sent you
absolutely. Yeah,
some nice pictures.
6A now. I mean, there's even been talk. I've heard about a few schools on each side of the state in Oklahoma going to 7A.
Right, and there'll be like 4 schools that are 7A. They just battle each other.
So when did you start firing this fucking baseball around and you think, okay, this kid's a real good baseball player. This kid's a pitcher.
So I was always a position player too. I mean, I was a decent catcher. I'm more built like a catcher, obviously, than I was a pitcher. But I played third base, pitched. I was a pretty good hitter. Older brother had walked on at Wichita State, so that kind of was an option. Nobody kind of really knew a ton about Wichita State growing up in Oklahoma. You watched a little bit of the College World Series because my parents were from Nebraska, so we were aware of the College World Series because they were born and raised in a small town just outside of Omaha, Arlington. So we knew of the College World Series and had gotten to go do that. And Wichita State had gone in '82, with Joe Carter and some of those guys back then. And then my older brother wasn't a great prospect, but was a good enough student and a good enough athlete that he walked on, and
so did he get to play some?
In aerospace engineering. That was the thing.
Right.
I mean, Wichita with aerospace engineering. Yeah, he ended up winning a national championship. So that was a crazy thing. And he came in with some guys looking back, Eric Wedge and P.J. Forbes, and, guys ended up making it to the major leagues. And that started the run down in Wichita. I mean, from '86, his freshman fall, through my younger brother's senior year, which was '99. We'll go into a little bit of that.
So you're all Wichita Staters?
All three of us, yeah.
Well, when did you start pitching? So how old were you?
So I pitched all along, and then I think more my senior year in high school, that was kind of the thing that it was pretty evident that I was a better pitcher than I was a hitter. Obviously, the guys at Wichita State, I'd gone up there for hitting camp and all that stuff, and their line back then was, well, thank you for your donation for camp because your check didn't bounce. Thanks for coming to hitting camp. But
so then what happened? Like all of a sudden, your senior year, you just blossomed. You start throwing harder, or what?
I was always had a good arm, and I wasn't a 95 guy like everybody is now, but I had good command. And there was 3 of us in the Tulsa area. One was Jeremy Hammondtree from Sperry, Brian Whitaker from Tulsa Union, and myself. We were kind of the 3 dudes, and it was always fun battling against those guys, and had a really good senior year and made All-State. And then, I was still 5'11" and 200 pounds, so I wasn't a hugely recruited guy. I had taken a trip to KU. Damon Gardner, a kid that I had played high school ball with, had actually gotten offered a full ride by KU and ended up going to Mississippi State, which was, obviously that was the place to go back then. Thunder and Lightning with Palmero and Will Clark. Mississippi State was the deal. So he had gotten offered from KU, and then I was kind of an afterthought at Wichita State. And so they offered me 10%. I was like, well, Wichita State's good. My brother's there. They're going to win. They just won a national championship. I'll take it. So I ended up going in with Darren Dreifert and Shane Dennis, and we'll talk about all the other guys. And I was like, man, that's an opportunity for me.
I don't think people quite understand, like, nobody gets a full ride scholarship for baseball hardly. How many, like, you get 12.7?
No, so 11.7, actually.
11.7?
Yeah, there's only 11.7 scholarships for 30. Well, now it's 33. Back then there was even more. There wasn't really the roster restrictions that there are now
How did they
in college.
Arrive at 11.7?
So it used to be 13, and then my senior year they cut back 10%. So there's your 1.3,
right?
And that's how it ended up at 11.7.
So the coach divvies up. He says, we like Bluma. We'll give you 10%. Now, if they get some guy who's like some stud, maybe they'll give you 50, or they kind of look and say, you're bright. We can get you a little academic bit too. And your parents have a job. The math that these college coaches go through is fucking insane.
It is, and it's a fucking Rubik's Cube on how to figure out who gets what and make it all work and everybody be happy. Darren Dreifert, who ended up being the second pick in the draft, was my freshman class, and he wasn't even the highest scholarship guy. There was a guy named John Llewellyn who went to Wichita East, and he hurt his shoulder for a week and hit left-handed and hit 4 home runs and just crazy shit like that. You know, it was like a legend back then, and he's a guy that just didn't really pan out at Wichita State. Gene kind of got in his brain a little bit, and he was tough. Gene Stevenson, the head coach there, legend. He was a negative, positive, negative guy, so he got in your ass. I mean, if he didn't like what he was saying, he was going to get in your shit and expect the most out of you. Same with our pitching coach, Brent Kimnitz, a legendary guy there too. And that was the expectation.
Did you guys talk and say, listen, I've only got 10%. And look at this guy's getting 40%. He fucking sucks. Did you guys talk amongst that?
No, we really didn't.
Did people's parents go like, you know, we really could help us a little here, Jamie, if you got a little more money from the school?
You know, nobody ever really knew what was going on because nobody knew who got what as far as academic stuff. Who was the smarter guy? I mean,
well, you know who's smarter.
Well, we knew.
Who are the dumbest guys on your team? Go ahead and say their names.
My freshman class, we had some smart dudes actually.
Was there anyone just dumb as a fucking rock?
Yeah, we had some dumb ones in the next class. Yeah, we had Joel Bradbury and some guys the next.
Like,
Joel
why? Give us an example of his stupidity, please.
Well, I mean, you can't make a 2-0 for the love of God.
Hey, don't get Steven's grades out.
No. In college, it was fine.
Okay.
High school, there was
much harder.
Well, and that was kind of
not
the thing too. I mean, from my parents' standpoint, the expectation was, you know, we got to foot the bill for whatever you're not getting money wise. So you by God better have
that's right.
And that was the expectation. And I'll tell a funny story. Both my older brother and my younger brother were academic All-Americans. I graduated college with a 3.3, so I was not a dumbass. But I actually left my apartment, which was cool. So I don't think those two my brothers ever left their apartment.
So when did you? So you're there. When did you become a star at Wichita State?
A star was tough.
Oh, you were a fucking star.
It was funny. About halfway through my freshman year, we had a senior closer named Morgan LeClaire, and he kind of spit the bit on a game, and I got a chance to go in and close. I think it was against Minnesota, but against Ryan Lefevre, possibly.
So freshman year, right?
So halfway through my freshman year, I got an opportunity to close a game. I'd never done that before. You know, you're not a closer in high school.
So this guy had gotten the negative from Gene. He's like, "You're out.
You know what?
Let's put the kid in."
But that seems like you're a freshman, and he's going to give you a chance to close.
At Wichita State, you had an opportunity to contribute if you proved that you could. You know, right out of the gate. And Darren Driver was contributing. Shane Dennis, we ended up being an All-American. His dad pitched in the big leagues, Don Dennis, for the Cardinals. It was nice because we actually got a chance. As good as we were going in, I mean, they had already been to the College World Series in '88. They had been to the College World Series and won it in '89. They didn't go in '90. This is '91. So there was an expectation with all the guys that we had that were, you know, the juniors and seniors and the Doug Mirabellis and the Chris Wimmers. I mean, we had a good. All of us freshmen, we're just hoping we get a chance to play.
And then you get put in a game.
What happened?
So the funny thing was I always warmed up. I always had my hat on backwards in college. And so the first time I got to come into a game, I forgot to turn my hat.
Oh, shit.
So I'm warming up in the bullpen with my hat on backwards. I'm like, oh, shit. Coming into the game, I flipped my hat around. So that kind of ended up being a deal.
Right.
So.
Oh, a superstition moving forward.
It was. And so it turns out that I ended up being the closer the rest of that thing, and we did some fun things. Bullpen guys are idiots, man. We were trying to pass the time, and Steve Smith, who was a senior from Canada, and some of us down there in the we had a toad. We found a toad in the bullpen, and we put a leash on it, and we had Hoppy. You know, it was our little pet toad.
It's like the fucking rally mantis.
Oh fuck, man! And so that was fun, and that was and we're all having fun.
What happened the first game you closed?
So. I ended up getting the save against Minnesota, and then that was kind of so that was it. So now I'm the closer.
And you're the closer.
So and it was great because Darren Dreifert was also a reliever. So
he would also hit 800-foot homers.
Not then,
and shit.
not as a freshman.
But I wasn't.
No,
but I forgot to ask you: were you drafted out of high school?
I was not.
Okay,
no.
so there was no decision. Wichita State.
No decision whatsoever.
Now you're
But was there any interest from Oklahoma State? Obviously, it was a big program.
No, Oklahoma State didn't really recruit Oklahoma kids. That was the whole thing. They tried to get guys from California, and my other option was to go. Vern Rule was the pitching coach at OU back then, and I really liked him. Stan Meek was the head coach. That was my fallback option. If I didn't take the 10% at Wichita State, I was going to walk on at OU.
Right. So this is an important thing.
I got OU's this fallback option.
It's this fallback. Well, it's a very important thing. You grew up over there in Owasso. You probably love the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. I don't know. But
Late in that baseball.
Are you a Sooner or a Cowboy fan?
I'm a Husker.
I know, but listen, if you had to, when they were playing and
If
all your
push
fucking
comes to
friends,
shove, I would be an Oklahoma guy before I.
that's all.
No
more
fuck,
talking.
he's a Nebraska guy.
No.
we're talking.
And here's
Fuck Oklahoma,
why.
he said.
Because Oklahoma State was really good in baseball too, and it was Gary Ward and Tom Holliday and Robin Ventura and Pete Incaviglia and all those guys.
Well, Robin Ventura was the shit in college.
They all were the shit.
Yeah, but
in college.
him.
I mean, Pete Incaviglia,
Yeah.
shit. I mean, he was better than Robin Ventura.
You know what
back
they never
then.
did? They never fucking won at all.
Never. And so we hated Oklahoma State as Wichita State because it always came down to, in the Midwest, who was going to host that regional.
Right.
And it was always between Oklahoma State and us.
Yeah.
And so we probably had more guys on our Wichita State roster from Oklahoma than Oklahoma State did.
Right.
Because Gene is from Oklahoma and Brent Chemnitz is from Oklahoma.
So they get the guys.
So they really recruited Oklahoma hard back in the day. Joey Jackson, another freshman, he was from Guthrie. Gene's from Guthrie. Brent's from Perry. I mean, we had some dudes.
And I'll remind you before
Braden
we get
Looper,
on
remember that name?
the
Another
importance
Oklahoma
of-
guy.
Not every podcast has to be
He's
about
from
fucking
fucking
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
But it doesn't have to be the
That's what we
University of
have. I
Oklahoma.
like it, yes.
You can talk about the state, but
Yeah.
And I'll remind you that Oklahoma won the College World Series in 1994, not Oklahoma
Well, let's
State.
talk about that too, because they beat our ass.
It happens.
Yeah.
Ryan and Damon Minor.
okay.
Hosted those guys on the recruiting
Ryan Miner was a
trip
good
to
basketball
Oklahoma.
player.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ryan Minor,
so-
he got drafted. He's the answer to the trivia question.
There's
So
a few
tell
good
me
Who replaced Cal Ripken Jr. when
There
the
you
streak
go.
ended?
how many
Ryan Minor.
how many College World Series did you pitch in?
3, 91, 92, 93.
Okay, so take us through
All right, so 91.
right.
Freshman.
Pitching my ass off, doing good. We host a regional. Now we got Hoppy the Frog. All right, we win our regional.
This frog lived. Did he stay out there?
The toad, we lost it.
Okay.
It escaped.
Okay.
Somehow. I mean, it was
hopped
really,
away, probably.
Yeah, there were some serious security issues.
Right.
We lost Hoppy. So the funny thing is now Baseball America and Lou Pavlovich gets a hold of this, or collegiate baseball. And, oh, man, Bluma, this crazy dude in the bullpen, he's got animals and all this. So my mom,
Backwards hat and all this shit.
yeah. So I ended up having a plastic frog in my hat. And then I created an entire ecosystem like in Omaha when we were practicing one day in Creighton.
Can you imagine the NIL possibilities for this guy?
Oh
who's
my
breaking
God,
now?
it's crazy. So I still have some stuff. I wish I had pictures of it. Some
Pet food stores.
articles on the wall, from Collegiate Baseball magazine.
Right.
And I always
This was the good College World Series back in the day at Rosenblatt when it was a
Rosenblatt
party.
Stadium.
It was
Yes,
not all corporate and shit.
Awesome.
It was just awesome.
Yeah, it was something else, man. And to have gotten to see my older brother play in a couple of them, and now to go. I mean, that was like being in the big leagues before you even knew anything about being in the big leagues, man.
So here you go.
Being in Omaha, you had Ray Knight doing the broadcasts on television, and man, it was something else. And to go from sitting in the stands watching your brother to you being the guy, something else. And so all of this hype about this freshman crazy dude, and we went out there and just kicked some ass, and we made it all the way to the national championship game. So
Against two.
I was against LSU, so that was Lyle Mouton, and Todd Walker wasn't there yet. He ended up being there in '93. Armando Rios, who ended up making it to the big leagues with the Giants. They beat us, man. They beat us 5-3 in a tough game in the national championship game, and I ended up facing. I pitched that game, I know, and finished that game, but we lost.
Did you pitch
5-3.
well?
I did. So that was one of my stats. Fast forward after playing in 3 College World Series and postseason
And
play.
we're not
I think
fast-forwarding this yet.
Well, no,
No.
I think one of the stats was
Right.
you're the fact checker. I think 18 1/3 total postseason innings. I gave up 1 run, and it was my last outing, my senior year. I hit Jay Payton of Georgia Tech with the bases loaded to drive in a run. I'm still pissed I was even in that game because we were losing.
Okay,
but
so
that
then
was a senior.
you lost your first College World Series, LSU 5-3 in the championship game. So then what happened in College World Series number 2?
So number 2 was probably the best team that I was on at Wichita State. All of us freshmen that had done good. Now we're sophomores. We've got a good incoming class with guys. And Doug Mirabelli's a junior. Chris Rimmer's a returning All-American. Scott McLuhan, if you remember that name, he used to be the GM of the Washington Redskins, was actually our third baseman. His brother played at Colorado. I mean, we just had some talent. Jason White, I can go up and down the lineup. And we lost both games in Omaha. We just the draft always happened right during the College World Series at that time.
fucked things up.
So it was
I
kind of
never
fun.
understood that shit.
So I remember watching Ben McDonald pitch in the College World Series in 1988.
He was the overall one.
Yeah,
one.
and he
was like
bombed, and
6'8".
Miami just pitched like
Yeah.
shit, man. And all the guys that got drafted really good never seemed to do well at the College World Series. One of the cool things, rewind back to 1991, we actually faced Creighton. Creighton's the host school, obviously. They ended up having 6 or 7 guys end up making it to the major leagues on their team. Jim Hendry was their head coach. That was an epic battle. You can still get on YouTube. Our center fielder, Jim Audley, threw a guy out at home plate that was the tying run in the 12th inning. Just amazing. And it got rated one of the top college baseball games of all time. I can pull that video up at some point.
Who'd you lose in the your second crowd?
So 92, the first game we played was against Pepperdine. If you remember, Patrick Ahern ended up making it to the big leagues. He was the guy that had patterned himself after Oral Hershiser. So he looked just like him, all the same mannerisms and stuff. And Patrick Ahern shoved it up our ass, and we lost. So we got beat by them, and then I think it was maybe Mark Redmond from Oklahoma ended up beating us, I think, the second game in 92, and that was it. So we get to Omaha. We're there for 4 days. We lost 2 games, and we go home.
So then what about your...
Shit. I mean, and then all of our juniors had gotten drafted, and they were kind of pissed where they got drafted, and that's why we ended up losing game 2.
Yeah,
So you were a sophomore?
So I was a sophomore.
Okay, so
Couldn't
then
get drafted.
Next year,
Couldn't get drafted,
your junior year?
I see Wichita State over Arizona State 4-3 in the first game.
In 92?
Your junior year, 93.
93. Was that the first game? Man,
Yeah.
you are the fact checker.
And then I see you beat Texas 7-6.
Yep, I pitched that game. That was
Texas.
yeah. They had Braxton Hickman, and they had some players.
Then
Calvin Murray.
you beat the shit out of the Cowpokes.
Yeah, we
10-4.
did. That's fun to beat them in Omaha.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then LSU beat you guys, shut you out.
So junior year, having a great season. That's when Darren Dryford. I remember we did not host that year. Oklahoma State hosted the regional. We ended up having to go on the road for the first time for a regional, so we went to Georgia Tech. So we're at Georgia Tech. Well, that team at Georgia Tech was Nomar Garciaparra.
Never heard of him.
Jason Varitek
Never
and
heard
Jay
of
Payton. So we have to go down there and play in that regional.
But you handled it.
So crazy other story, Greg Brummett, who was the MVP of the 89 National Championship team, had made his major league debut while we were down there for the Giants against the Braves,
So
and we got to go to that game.
Oh, you went to the game.
So we
That's
got to go to
awesome.
that game, yeah. So we're like, shit, man, we're going to go beat the hell out of, and we did. So we ended up winning that regional. Darren Dryford at that point was DHing when he wasn't pitching. He ended up hitting between the Valley Tournament, the regional, and the College World Series. He had 11 home runs in the postseason. So he had 11 in the regular season, and he had 11 in the postseason. So he ended up just carrying us on his back. And so we make it to Omaha. We, again, crushed through the bracket and beat whoever we beat. And then here we are again, national championship game. Who we playing?
Now,
LSU.
This was back
This was
then.
1993.
So it's one game there.
So no matter what you did on both sides of the bracket,
It was down to one
Yeah,
game.
it wasn't
One
a best
and
2 out
done,
of 3
that's it.
like it is now.
And
And
so-
regionals were different too. So you had 8 6-team regionals instead of regional and then super regional like it is now.
you played
Yeah,
a
so,
little mini
you
thing.
round robin.
It's different. I mean, they've always tried to find a way to make college baseball work and make it better. I don't know what the right way to do it is. I kind of like getting to the end now and having 2 out of 3.
Sure.
It's really tough to have one game in a fucking baseball.
Yeah.
Well, what happened in the one game against
So-
Lost 8-0.
So we started a freshman, Travis Wyckoff, for us, really good freshman, and then they started Brett Laxton, if you remember that name. So Brett was a freshman at LSU, and man, he shoved it up our ass. He struck out 14, I think, in the national championship game. I don't even know if we got a guy past second base. Just a great performance by him. And so there was the worst feeling in the world is to go back out on the first base line and get another second place trophy in Omaha, and that's probably the only time I've really ever lost my composure on the field. Is I took my second place trophy and frisbeed it into
Did you
the
throw
dugout.
it like into Bad News Bears?
Broke
You
it into,
threw it in the dugout?
I threw it from the first baseline into the dugout and broke it into about 15
Did you pick
pieces.
it up?
Yeah.
No.
Did you
I
take
don't.
any
To
shit
this
for
day,
that?
I did. Yeah, I took plenty of shit for that.
What? So you
Nah,
get
they
it
yelled
and you
at
just
me.
fucking throw it?
I did. Like, man, losing a second again?
Yeah, because you'd
this.
done this, and you'd already now the way that the draft worked. You got drafted in '93. Had you been drafted before, or had
I had not been
happened?
drafted before. So right after the Houston Astros drafted me in the 7th round, and so now I got to go home and make a decision. I had just had an amazing junior year. I mean, Dreifort was the 2nd pick. I ended up being a 7th rounder by Houston. Shane ended up getting drafted somewhere.
So you made it freshman, sophomore, and junior year to the
College World Series.
To the champion. So
Twice in the championship
when did you make it
game.
in the championship game?
91 and 93.
Okay.
Freshman year, junior year.
So junior year is when you get drafted by the Astros.
So I go 6-1 with like a 1-something ERA and 10 or 12 saves. Like, I can't pitch any better. Like, I'm going to sign. I'm going.
7th round.
Yeah.
This is old crazy fucking aluminum bats too.
Yes.
It's in the shit now. It's dangerous ass throwing these aluminum bats back then.
Oh my God, man.
So then you get drafted. You say you go home to make the decision. What are they offering you?
So I sit down with Bill Kelso. You know Kelso from the Northland.
Mm-hmm.
He's the area cross checker. Chuck Edmondson was my area scout, and Chuck was his boss, or Bill was his boss. I remember sitting down with Gene Stevenson and Bill Kelso. They were old friends from back in Oklahoma and playing days, because I think Bill might have played it. Gene played at Missouri. They knew each other from, we'll say, World War II. I don't know. And so the negotiations are pretty good. I was going to get, X amount of dollars, 50 grand, 65, I think, plus 4 semesters of school, because I wanted to have school paid for and all that kind of stuff. I was a good student, so I wanted to make sure that was all covered. So we finished dinner. That was all good. Got up the next morning. I get a phone call from Chuck, and Chuck's like, "Well, I found out that we can't cover all 4 semesters of school. We can only cover 2. That's good. That's what we can do." I said, "Well, that's fine. Throw me $10,000 on the other side so I can pay for school, whatever." And then they said no, and I'm like, "So you're actually offering me less money today,
right,
than you did yesterday? That's not really how negotiations are supposed to go,
right?"
And this is frustrating. So meanwhile, Darren Dreifort isn't going to sign because he's the 2nd pick. He's going to wait, and Shane Dennis isn't going to sign because he's trying to get more money too. So I get to talking. We know Darren's going to end up signing, so he's obviously not coming back.
This is in the days where you had until the day before.
Well, there was also draft and follows as well.
Yeah, and you could sign up until like the day before the next year's draft.
Correct.
This wasn't like, I think it's a great rule now. Make your shit decision
Get it done.
by August 15th or whatever.
Yep.
The Royals had that. Remember Jeff Austin?
Yeah.
I think it was
Jeff.
the fucking last day.
Yeah.
It was like he had been a draft pick for like 363 days, and he finally signed.
Right.
So this is tough stuff back then, because your life has to fucking go on.
Well, yeah. So I'm in Wichita at the time. I have the meeting. Now I'm pissed. Like, what? So I called my parents.
Your parents are like, "Fuck these guys. They don't want to pay for school."
So I drove back to Owasso, and Chemnitz, my pitching coach, calls me and says, "Hey, I think Chuck Edmondson got wind that you're heading back home. He's trying to beat you to your parents' house."
Talk about draft and follow. He's following your ass down there.
So I get home, and I tell my mom and dad I'm going to a buddy's house. Act like you never saw me here at the house, and Chuck's going to come to the house. Well, Chuck pissed my parents off by telling them that he didn't think school was important anyway, and he needs to sign and be a professional baseball player. And so
that's not going to work.
That fucking didn't help. And then now, like, mom and dad are pissed, and they don't like Chuck. Fuck Houston. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't want to wear white shoes anyway in the minor leagues. So fuck Houston. So Dreifort and I talk, and I go up to Alaska to play college summer ball in Alaska. Great experience.
Is that where you live with a family? And
yes, absolutely. Host
stuff?
families and all
Awesome.
that stuff. Steve Arfa was my roommate from the University of Arizona. Still keep in touch with him to this day. And
those are fun summers.
Awesome summer. So finds out we get to there. We have a center fielder named Rolando Avila, who was the Astros' 13th pick out of LA Harbor Junior College. And they're kind of screwing with him, too. So we got the Astros 7th rounder, me, and the 13th rounder, and we got Dreifort playing for us, and we got Brett.
Sitting in Alaska.
Man, we got JD. We got a good team. So ended up 4 of us on that team ended up making it to the big leagues. So I have a good summer. Pitched my ass off. We're going to come back and play in the NBC tournament, which is kind of the end of the summer, College World Series for the summer, back in Wichita, Lawrence Dumont Stadium. And I'm kind of, I pitched my ass off. I think I'm going to come back, and Houston's going to offer me a buttload more money. They don't even talk to me.
They didn't even talk to you. But Dreifort did sign.
Dreifort ends up signing for $1.4 back then.
Back in
it
the
was
day.
Alex Rodriguez first, Darren Dreifort second with the Dodgers. Mariners obviously picked first, Dodgers picked. It was up to the last second who was going to go 1-1, whether it was Dreifort or A-Rod.
So then you go. So then
I
back
ended
to
up
school.
sitting down, Shane Dennis and I, and Joey Jackson, and I was like, "Fuck it, let's go to the College World Series 4 times in a row."
Right.
Because we would have a decent team and some
Right.
good incoming freshmen, Braden Looper and some other guys, Nathan Reese from here, and so we had a good team again. So that was the thing. And Brent Chemnitz is like, I remember him looking at me right in his eye in his office. He's like,
This is the pitching coach?
Yes. He said, "Don't you fuck with me.
Are you coming back or not?
Back?" I said, "You know what? I'm coming back." Yep.
So you guys come back.
To come back. Senior year.
The storybook ending is.
Well, there's no storybook ending. It's actually, man, I'm throwing my. The thing is about getting drafted as a junior and not signing. When you go back for your senior year, you automatically know that you're going to get a bucket of chicken and a plane ticket.
Now you're not the belle of the ball anymore.
Right. I mean, and so
because you ain't got no choice.
What weird thing had happened though? Jimmy Walker, not Dynamite, but Jimmy Walker from Nickerson that pitched at Kansas had been a non-drafted junior, and the Orioles had drafted him in the 3rd round his senior year. That had happened the year before.
So you're like, hey, maybe it could happen.
I'm like, man, it could happen again, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's try it. So I'm having a great senior year. We're playing good. We host. And then I kind of pitched like shit in the Valley tournament. I gave up a couple runs. Now I'm like, well,
who's in the Valley then?
So back then it was Missouri State.
Right.
Well, Southwest Missouri State at the time. Bradley. Northern Iowa was in the Valley by then. Bradley. Illinois State. Creighton.
It's good baseball.
Indiana State, they had a couple guys. Bob Warren, that was their manager. Casey Witten, they always had some good dudes. So it was always kind of us and Creighton at that time, and the Missouri State got pretty good.
So you play in the Valley tournament, and you don't need to win it to go to the NCAAs.
No. There's no automatic bid type thing back then. So we ended up hosting a regional, and we're the number 1 seed in the regional, and we win the regional. We don't win the regional. Well, guess who comes calling? Georgia Tech gets sent to our regional.
Right.
Like, oh, shit. Now that's the same guys. So they had been sophomores the year before.
You guys had beaten them.
And, so here comes Veritek, Peyton, and Garcia Parra.
Noma.
Yeah, so they whooped our ass in our own regional.
And then it's over.
And that's it. And I'm like, well, I just had a shitty last couple weeks of my senior year.
But you still property of the Astros here, so you could, but they haven't even fucking talked to you since
I'm done with that
You've
shit.
shut the door on them.
Bye-bye.
So then when's the next draft?
2 days later.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens? Take us through
2
that.
days later. So back then it wasn't, it's not on TV.
No, I remember I used to dial into these things. You could dial in and listen to it in the media a little bit after this. It wasn't your draft, but you would call in and it would just be this thing. And the guy would go, and the Kansas City Royals select player number 6489480. Up next is it would take 1 second apiece. They ain't know nothing on it.
But going into this, what were your expectations?
None. Like, I think I just blew my chance to be a top 10 round pick.
Okay.
And I'm going to just go, whoever drafts
no
me,
one's
I'm going to go.
called you, no one's
nothing.
talked to you,
Not
nothing.
really. The Minnesota Twins, because Mike Ruth, who lives here, was at least, good to our seniors and kind of like, hey, man, we love you guys, a good pro.
So you don't sit down to watch fucking draft day.
You can't.
You ain't looking on the smartphone. There ain't nothing. You're just going about your day.
I don't even think I was at home. We did before cell phone days.
Okay.
I mean, I'm probably at Tanner's in Wichita
Only people
or
had
whatever.
cell phones were drug dealers.
Right.
So then how do you
So I get home and there's a message on my this
old
is
school machine.
Yeah. Beep. This is Ken Gonzalez with the Kansas City Royals. I'm here to tell you that we drafted you in the 3rd round. Like, you've got to be shitting me. Like, okay. So Dave Hickerson, who was the head coach at Valley Center, I knew him because Mike Drumright at Wichita State, who ended up subsequently being a first rounder, he was a bird dog associate scout for the Royals, and so they come to my house, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to get this thing done. And Ken Gonzalez, Dave Hickerson, and myself were sitting in my apartment in Wichita, and Ken Gonzalez looks me right in the eye and tells me, son, you realize this, but you are going to pitch in the big leagues. Like, we think that much of you. That's why we drafted you, where we drafted you. We're going to put you right in the system as a closer. You're going to continue to do the same thing that you just did at Wichita State. I wanted to draft you the year before. We had to pick after Houston in the 7th round. We were going to take you, and we didn't. So I'm not missing my opportunity to draft you now. Our first-round pick subsequently was Matt Smith that year from Grants Pass, Oregon, and number 2 was Jed Hansen from Stanford. So, and then I was 3rd. So, and Tim Burdack and Jose Rosado were in that draft as well.
Do you know any other guys in the 3rd round of the Major League Baseball draft? I'm looking it up right now.
That year?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I did.
There were some good ones.
A.J. Przinsky.
Oh, yeah, I was
Everyone
a pick
hates
after him, wasn't I?
You're a little bit after.
Yeah.
Aaron Boone was picked then.
Well,
Scotty Podsednik was also picked then.
Yeah.
But then there's also some other dudes who just no one's ever heard of. It's a hard deal, man.
It's crazy.
People don't fucking get how hard it is to get drafted, even if you're in the 3rd round, and find your way.
Even if you're in the first round.
To find your way through making it to the major leagues.
Just
We'll get
listen
to
to the
that part a little
guys
bit.
you talked about that got drafted ahead of you and behind you. You know,
Right.
So how much do they offer you, or how does that go?
So crazily, they offered me the same amount that Houston had offered me the year before. As a senior, I was shocked.
Right, because you thought you were going to get $1,000.
$5,000 and a ticket to Eugene, Oregon. You know, that's what I thought I was getting. And so, no, they offered me 65, 50 or 65. I can't remember exactly which. And I'm ecstatic. Like, yeah, I don't say, hey, can I get 75? No, like,
At
yes.
this point, do you need more school money or did you graduate?
I was short, so that's paid for. So
Right.
the 2 semesters, just like they had said the year before, that was actually true. What Houston had told me, they're only on the hook for 2 because I was a senior. For guys that are, you know, high school guys, MLB actually pays for that deal, not your particular team.
Yeah, but they'll do that.
So
so you got that part done.
So we get all this done. So the strange thing is, I'm going to get choked up, is I could tell Ken wasn't feeling very good. And so I ended up filling out all the paperwork. Dave Hickerson's telling me what to write and fill out all the paperwork for the contract and all that stuff. And we finished, man, he's just not feeling so good. And they're like, well, do you want to go out to dinner with us? And my girlfriend at the time, it was her birthday, June 3rd. So I was like, no, I actually got plans and all that stuff. So I don't go to dinner with Dave Hickerson and Ken Gonzalez. I go to dinner with my girlfriend and her family. Next morning, phone rings. Like 6:45 in the morning. Like I said, no cell phones. And it's Dave Hickerson. And he said, got some bad news for you. Ken Gonzalez died last night, had a heart attack in his hotel room.
Wow.
Like, holy shit, man.
In Wichita?
On the east side, yeah. At the
And so you're just a young dude, you hear that, and you're like,
I mean, you don't know this, but was he sick? Was it totally unexpected?
You just said he didn't feel good?
Just said he didn't feel. I mean, he was a bigger guy. You know, he's 6'4", probably 260. You know, I mean, I didn't know him that well. He was the guy that had signed Bo Jackson. You know, I knew some of these things from. I just met him the day before.
But
he was the guy that wanted to draft me, and I know he was trying to get back here to Kansas City to watch his kids play baseball, and I'm floored, and I'm. Man, I don't know, what do I do? I said, Dave, what do I do? And he's like, go pitch your ass off.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
You know, I mean, okay. And so on the next day, I mean, I call my mom and dad. I mean, I'm a wreck. Like, and this is my dude.
You remember the guy you met who signed us? Yeah, he died.
Yeah. Like,
but he looked at you in the eye.
I mean, like you and I sitting here.
And told you were going to make it to the majors. He believed in you.
100%.
And this was a guy that had told you he was going to draft you before, and he followed through with it and gave you that same bonus.
And this is my dude.
Such an instrumental person in your life, and then 24 hours later, you're finding out he passed away.
Not even 24 hours later.
It's got to be
12 hours later.
Incredibly tough for you to deal with.
Because it's interesting when you see these guys. You know, I've heard we were talking to Colin Snyder, right, when he made it up. Like, he was the first guy who his scout had ever got to the major leagues, because they believe in you. You're like their kids, right? When you make the major leagues, that's good for them. So, and they stay in contact with you through your minor league career. So you didn't have that guy.
Like your sponsor, like you got to have a dude that's in your corner.
He's going to bat for you.
Absolutely,
he's trying. I want, you know, like he talked about. He wanted to draft
seniors in the 3rd round,
and then give him that money.
Right. And it wasn't millions of dollars.
You
but
didn't have him to lean on through that time.
At that time, that was the highest and the most money a senior had ever gotten. They
didn't have to give you that because you had nothing to negotiate with.
They did not.
And so so then how do you handle that?
That was my thing. It's like, man, I owe this guy. I got to work my ass off. I got to get to the big leagues.
It motivated you.
Absolutely, 100%
so
motivated
it's June 3rd. Then they tell you where do you go?
Eugene, Oregon. So
like
2 days.
Days later.
So I'm home. I run home back to Owasso. I get to go see my little brother play Legion ball.
Right.
I end up sitting in the stands with Dejan Watson, who's now the player development guy for the Washington Nationals. He was a scout for the Royals at the time. Actually, Brian McRae's roommate back in the minor leagues. I remember sitting him at the stands with him at the La Fortune Park in Tulsa, watching my little brother play Legion ball. And he's like, man, you're going to love Eugene. That's where we played back in the day.
The Emeralds.
The Eugene Emeralds, man, just good luck. And so he knew the whole thing about Ken Gonzalez and like, man, this is crazy. And so that was it. I get on a plane the next day, and I fly to Eugene, Oregon, and meet all the dudes. The Jed Hansons, the Art Stewarts, the Brian Polberg was my manager. And he was an Emporia State guy, so who knew who I was?
And you met Art Stewart, like you said.
So the funny, crazy Art Stewart thing is, so I'm hitting fungo. You know, we're taking batting practice and shagging. I'll tell 2 stories. One, Art Stewart comes up to me at the cage and says, say, son, you got a nice sinker. And I'd lose my noodles. because my college pitching coach, Brent Kimnitz, used to talk like that with a whistle. Says, Sammy Sosa says safety glasses in sunny St. Louis. And so I don't know that's how Art Stewart talks.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, man. And he's looking at me like, what is this kid yelling
What
at
did
me
he
for?
tell you? What did he tell you?
I thought I was going to get,
What did he say?
son, you got a nice sinker. And you know that's how Art talks.
That's
so
right. That's why I'm laughing so hard.
I'm thinking I'm going to get released 12 hours into my professional career because I'm making fun of our scouting director, Art Stewart, because he talks with a whistle. And so then that same day, I'm out shagging balls in the outfield. Of course, my dumb ass is doing the hat backward thing. And I come running in to I don't know, we're going to go run poles or do whatever. And Brian Polberg walks right up and gets right in my face.
Fuck yeah.
And he says, son, you need to find your fucking face. And I'm like, what in the hell does that mean? Like, I don't say that out loud. Like,
right.
I need to find. He goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure the bill of your cap should cover your face.
There it is.
And so I turned it around and said, yes, sir. He said, I'm pretty sure Ken Griffey Jr. earned the right to wear his hat backwards.
Oh.
You have not.
You have not.
And so that was that. So
That was a big deal when Ken Griffey was backwards.
all the college and the shenanigans with wearing your hat backwards and flipping it. Done.
Ain't no fucking Hoppy
no
the Toad
more. This
here.
is not college baseball,
So
young man. This
you
is
weren't
professional
in
baseball.
Eugene for a long, long time. You
I was not. So we had a good team there. We had Tim Grieve, son of
Tom Grieve.
Tom Grieve, and Ben Grieve's brother.
Grieve.
Ben was in that same league. So two high school guys were in that league, Paul Canerco and Ben Grieve, and they were good players. And we had Ben's older brother that had pitched at TCU with Reed Ryan, who's Nolan Ryan's son, on our team. So he was kind of the setup guy, and I was the closer. So he went like 7-0, and then I closed games.
Was this pretty new to have a guy who was a reliever? I mean, it's like you
no,
never
because we had done
started
it in
really.
college.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just closed all the way through college, so that's what I was going to do.
That was fairly rare for college even back then, wasn't it?
A little bit,
now
yeah.
we're getting a little more specialized. You
Little
were
bit.
specialized before specialized, so you go there and you know you're not doing anything except relief pitching.
Yeah, I'm just going to be the closer, and that was it right out of the gate. And so I got the opportunity, and we were playing good. And Tim Grieve would come throw 7 and 8, and I'd throw 9, and we're mowing them down and doing well. And then actually MLB goes on strike.
Right.
Goes on. So we're like, what in the fuck does that mean for us?
Well, you're not in the union.
Just keep playing. So
Yeah.
I remember seeing Jay Buhner in Bellingham watching his brother Sean, because big league season's done.
Yeah, they got nothing to do.
They're not doing anything. So I pitch well enough. I get moved up. I skip Rockford, which was low A, Midwest League, and I go all the way to Eugene, Wilmington, Delaware.
How many teams are there now? There's like fucking 7 minor league teams, and now they got it down to like nothing.
So there was Omaha at the time, was Memphis. Then there was Wilmington, and then Rockford, which was low A, and then short season, which was Eugene, and then back then we had a rookie ball team. We didn't have another rookie ball team. We had a.
So you skipped the next one.
So
and you
I
went straight
skipped
to Wilmington,
long
Delaware.
season low A and went to the team in Wilmington that had been just lights out. I mean, they were 50 games over 500. Mike Jerschley was the manager. That's Johnny Damon. That's Sal Fasano. That's Sweeney had been there early in the year. I mean, that is the pinnacle of the minor leagues, group of players that's there.
So you get in with that
And
group.
so I don't know anybody. I just signed. So I remember getting off the plane, and the gal picks me up at the airport, and she says, Mike Jerschley told me not to give you a blowjob on the way to the ballpark. I said, what the hell? What? Man, did I get called up to the big leagues, or I just get called up to high A? Like, this is unbelievable. And so I get to the locker room. I still have my Wichita State stuff, man.
Yeah.
I haven't even got any Royals gear. I've only been playing for 2 months. And
they didn't have all the swag back then.
so I show up at the ballpark, and I don't even really know what's going on. And I walk out from the locker room onto the field, and they're having some sort of exhibition game. I see a left-handed catcher. I'm like, what is happening? Well, it turns out one of the guys on their team had been diagnosed with leukemia, so they were doing a benefit game that day to try raise some money for John Downs, I think his name was. And the guy actually catching Kevin Rowitzer, to this day, 25, 30 years later, one of my best friends. But I remember meeting all the guys, meeting Mike Jerschley and Gary Lance and the whole crew there. And, I mean, that team's good. And they're just getting ready to finish the regular season. They've already clinched going to the playoffs and all that. And I walked back in, and there's a sign on my bag that said, "This isn't college anymore." And it was Steve Sisko from Cal State Fullerton. who I had played against,
Right.
and all the way through. And so they were all razzing me. I don't know where I'm going to live or all this stuff. So this group of guys, Bart Evans, Kevin Rowitzer, Chris Sheehan, said, you're going to live with us at Ace Deuce Ot Deuce. That was the number of their apartment.
Right.
1202.
Yeah.
And so
That's right.
that was it. So
the
four of us in
Major
a-
League Baseball is still on strike.
Yep.
You guys are going about your business. Do you even fucking pay attention to that stuff?
Not really, not at all,
Because
man.
you're doing your deal. You're not in the union.
Nope.
You're just playing baseball.
Boy, and being in Wilmington as good as we were, I mean, the regular season, they finished that year. You can look this up, fact checker. We were 94-44 that year. That Wilmington team was in '94. So I had just done a full
checking this
college
right
season,
now.
and then signed, and I play in Eugene, and now I'm in Wilmington, and we're like in the big leagues. There's a place called the Big Kahuna in Wilmington. Like we go there after games, drinks and food.
94-44. You
Bam,
fucking nailed it.
Well, the cool thing about leaving Eugene, I knew if my last outing, if I put up a 0, I would have an ERA under 1. So you kind of have that in the back of your head. So I left Eugene with a .97 ERA, I think.
You gave up a fucking run.
No, I did. I had given up 4
you did.
and
And then you
I had
didn't.
36 and a little.
I
bit
got
of
you at
change.
4-0 there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I go to
0.93.
Wilmington, and there was kind of a rule within the organization, like if you throw X amount of pitches, you're not supposed to pitch the next day. If you throw 2 innings, you got to sit. We were playing good, and Mike Jerschley knew I had a rubber arm, so I think I had like 7 appearances, and I got 4 wins and
Yeah.
2 saves in
you were
7 appearances.
throwing
Like
some stats up.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that I would go spit the bit and vulture a win. Like
Yeah.
I'd come in with the game tied or us behind, and we'd come back and win. And then I think we played Winston-Salem, and we swept them. I'm on the mound when we win it.
Had you had any arm problems to
A
this
little
point?
bit. I had a little bit of a tweaker my sophomore year. I had to sit out a little bit, but at this point, not really.
So I'll tell you this: at this time, I'm a couple years older than you, but not much older, and I'm working in '94. I finally got a full-time job at Channel 4, but then you'd get the Star on Sunday, and that would be the minor league report. You never saw fucking stats anywhere,
Right.
And we would always see, here's this fucking guy down here. This guy is stoling up saves, is doing this shit. This fucking Bluma. So it goes into the next year.
Down
too,
on
right?
the farm.
Down on the farm,
In
the
the
fucking
newspaper.
farm report. So I remember my buddy Lance and I, we'd look at this and say, this fucking Bluma. I know we don't know anything because you never see a highlight. You don't know shit about nothing, but you see these stats coming through. This guy's ERA is under fucking 1.
Yeah.
Is this going to be the guy who's going to come up here and do this? So did you get a feeling anywhere that the organization is happy, sad, fans know? Because this is before social media. This is nobody. You're just down there in your anonymity.
You just go play, man. That was the great thing. And to go from a college program that I had been at with success, and you roll right into 94-44, and you play just what I'm used to, man. Like, this is unbelievable. How do I walk into this situation where, I'm already in high A. I just signed. And one of the things that kind of worked in my favor is I was a senior. So no reason to keep me in rookie ball for very long because I'm probably a year older. I'm already 22. And so that helped. Obviously, pitching good helps more than anything.
So you're done now. You get your first break since when? I mean, the college season started.
Yeah, so we finish up out there, and I go back to Wichita. And
now you
one
get
funny
to
story. I will tell you a funny story from Eugene. So I remember the first time we're playing in Spokane, the home of John Stockton. Mm-hmm. We went to his bar. His parents owned a bar there in Stockton. My best
Did everyone
friend
have
from
short
college,
shorts on there?
Shane Dennis
They're
had
tight.
pitched at Wichita
Nut
State.
huggers.
He was pitching for Spokane with Mark Marilla and some other guys, and so we're out having beers. And the next day, I'm pitching, and George Brett is there to come watch the minor league guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I come in to close the game.
He had just retired.
He had just retired the year before, yeah. And so he's walking around. His brothers, Ken, owned Spokane.
Yeah, they own the minor league team.
Absolutely.
Right.
So that's why he's there, and he's in the dugout. And, obviously we had Brian Polberg was our manager. And so I come in to close the game against Spokane. And at the time, I didn't wear a cup when I pitched. That's dumb. And I tell all the kids that I teach now I was really dumb. So last out of the game, guy hits a 2-hopper, hits me right in the nuts. Crushes me. Throw the guy out at first base. I don't even stay on the field to high five, man. And it's from here to like 2 buildings over to the
get your
locker
nuts
room. To
checked.
get to the locker room, and I'm throwing up in the bathroom on the ground.
He got you good.
Oh man, it awful. I thought I was going to die. Well, George thought I was a prick because I didn't shake everybody's hands and high five
boy.
everybody.
He doesn't
And
like
then-
that shit.
Then he finds out that I got hit in the nuts.
And then he thinks you're stupid.
And I'm in I'm in there throwing up in the locker room and all that stuff. So that was
What did he
first
say?
time
Like-
I get to meet George Brett, and then thinks I'm a complete asshole.
Did he address it? Did he
Well,
talk
I
to
mean,
you?
obviously he sees in there when I'm throwing up.
Yeah.
He realized I got hit.
Then he said, "You should wear a
right
cup,
in the balls."
son.
Yeah, you dumbass.
You're
Why aren't
so
you wearing a
stupid.
cup
Why
when
aren't
you're
you wearing
pitching?
a
So I
cup?
wore one every time since.
So
after
tell me
that.
about this off season, because now, I mean, the story of baseball is there's still nothing fucking done with major leagues. So
Right.
that goes through and turns into from a strike to a lockout. They actually hired scab players.
Okay, so-
to go to spring training.
Yes,
Did they
so-
approach you about this?
So fast forward to spring training. So I
Mm-hmm.
go home and I do all, I get normal workout routine that I do when I was in college. I'm going to do the same thing in preparation for
Spring training's
training.
in Florida now. This
Yep,
is not
yep.
surprise.
Baseball's,
This is
baseball's shitty.
Yeah,
Baseball's shitty. I've never been to a place that's got 3 towns like Haines City, Baseball City, and Davenport.
Yeah, all of it were
like
there.
you could send
Where
mail
were you
to all
standing?
3 of those.
You didn't know where you were.
Right.
I liked it down there. I went there with Danny Klingsteel one year, and then
baseball.
Yeah.
So I
Jason
had
Justice.
played at Boardwalk and Baseball when I was in high school. We played in a tournament down there when the theme park was still
It was
open.
actually working, yeah.
And we played against Westminster Christian. So we played against Alex Rodriguez at the Royals
You
Stadium.
faced him?
We did. Yeah.
Did
yeah.
you face him? You put him down?
Yeah, we got him out. We actually beat them and a team from Tuscaloosa.
Turns out he rebounded.
Well,
from
and they
that.
had turf. It was turf back then,
Right.
in Baseball City. So it was cool to go back. Man, I'd already played here.
Yeah,
And
I know
so
this place.
They were a little bit forward thinking back then. There was a dorm for the minor league
Right,
guys.
they
So we
did
go to
have a
spring
dorm.
training. So the big league team's on strike. So my first spring training, I'm not going to big league camp or anything because I just signed. So we go to camp and we're in the dorms, minor leagues. I'm living with Tim Grieve and Toby Smith from Wichita State and just doing our things in minor league camp. We're not real concerned about.
There's no games yet. You're just doing PFP.
Yeah, just practice
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that, playing against inter squad against
Right.
each other and all that stuff. And meanwhile, here they come to ask, will you come cross and be a scab?
Now, who is it that's
Who
going to
asks?
ask?
Who does the
Who's
ask?
in this group?
They didn't ever ask. We were actually pretty lucky with the Royals. So I know who maybe it was Bob Hegman back then.
Yeah.
Or maybe Jay Hendricks that were
One of those guys. 'Cause this was an odd
It was
time,
Herc
too.
Robinson was the GM.
He
at
was
the
the
time.
GM, yep.
And so we weren't in big league camp. And so we kind of got left alone, except for, man, they needed players. And we'll offer you X amount of dollars to come play. And so, we're not going to say, yeah, we didn't really know what to do.
Well, this is a weird
The nice
time,
thing was,
'cause the
remember
Royals-
Dennis Rasmussen and Keith Miller?
Right.
Those guys were minor league camp guys as well. So they helped us young guys out to be like, hey, man, don't
watch this
do
shit.
So he said, we need you to go to this union meeting in Tampa, you young prospects. So it was myself and Billy Wagner and Alan Bennis, and all some of the college high picks, Brooks Kieschnick, some of us that are down there in Florida. We need to go sit in on this union meeting to understand what you
what's
guys,
at stake here.
for when you guys do make it to the major leagues and listen to what they have to say.
Because the Royals at this point, Mr. K had passed away, right? So this was when they were owned by a committee of people. So that was the weird part. Like they probably didn't have
Well,
a real
we
central
as minor
thing.
league guys,
You
we didn't know
shit.
anything about any of this stuff.
I don't know how they would come approach you. I just remember during spring training. We had sent at Channel 4. Keatsman was down there in Florida, and we're like, when they were going to fucking play games with scab
scabs.
players, and it
Yes.
was like, are they going to go to Baltimore? Are they going to come back? He was sitting in an airport at Atlanta, going, which way do I go? I don't know where to go. Follow this fucking story. So you go to this meeting, you get told this.
So we
stuff.
go to this meeting, and man, you've got Cecil Fielder, and you've got Todd Stottlemyre, and Norm Charlton bummed a dip off me. I thought that was the coolest thing that had ever happened to me
There's
in
some
my
fucking
life. I got
intimidating guys right
Norm
there.
Charlton, Rob Dibble, and
Get the nasty boys getting dips.
and I'm telling you, Todd Stottlemyre ripped our asses. Like, you motherfuckers, if you cross, your parents won't even talk to you anymore, and you do not. We are the strongest union. And man, I'm looking at Alan Bennis and like, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that I know, like.
So tell me if I'm wrong. You guys were top prospects that were headed to the
Correct.
majors. They targeted some guys that maybe weren't going to make it to the majors.
Correct.
And this maybe would be their only chance to make it to the majors. So they took some guys that wouldn't have to face the music like you would had you crossed the line, right?
Correct. So we were lucky as Royals players that I had heard from the Houston guys and the Cincinnati guys, if they ask you to come cross and you said no, you got sent home. So Billy Wagner, home. Aaron Boone, who was with the Reds at the time, home.
But you guys had a future.
Home. Right. So we were lucky as Royals guys. We got to continue our business and do minor league camp. Some of those guys did not. We had a bunch of guys cross. I mean, the minor league guys that I had played with, I mean, they had to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, man, am I really going to make it to the big leagues, or do I take this, whatever it was, $25,000 or $50,000?
And your only chance to make it to the majors, maybe.
And they had some minor league scab games, right? Spring training.
Oh, yeah.
So they were doing those, and then then that's when they were going to say, all right, we're going to start.
We're going to start the season with replacement players.
And then everyone said, all right, fucking, let's hold on, let's not do that.
Yeah. And then it got done.
And then they extended spring training with actual, like Major League spring training for a minute, right?
So, yeah, and some of those guys, a good percentage of those guys that had been scabs are now in the minor league systems.
Right.
You know, I mean, we had some guys, Jeff Grotwald, and
they all had a scarlet letter on them.
Who were some other names?
I'm trying to think. You know the Joel Goldberg for the Anaheim Angels, Moda?
Okay.
He had crossed.
So how were they treated once everything got back together?
Not good. I mean, I remember the next year, you know, when we were getting somebody, you know, I think the Royals ended up having more of those guys end up getting called up during the year than any other organization. I think Edgar Caceres was one, Moda. I think maybe Grotwald got a little bit of big league time that summer. I'd have to go back and look. I mean, that was the summer of 95,
right? And
see who was at the major league.
But they
level.
Got treated like shit.
They got treated like shit.
They could never be in the
union.
union.
They got treated like shit at the big league level. I mean, it's my first. I was happy to make our Double-A team.
Right.
My first spring training, I'm in Double-A, which
and they had moved that.
They did. So they had switched. So Memphis had been their Double-A team, and they left Memphis and
go to
Wichita.
Where? So now this guy's back in Wichita.
Get my ass out of Wichita. So I don't even really move out of my apartment there on 21st and Woodlawn, and I ended up staying with Johnny Damon and Jeff Granger, I think, and Sal Fasano and Kevin Routz. I remember Ken Ray. Those were all my roommates in Wichita. And so it was bizarre to just go right back to Wichita and play at Lawrence Dumont Stadium downtown. Can't get away. Was on the cover of the program for the Wichita Wranglers, me and George Brett on the cover of the Wichita Wranglers program. Welcome back to Wichita, Bloomer. Right. Like, you got to be shitting me. So of all places.
Clearly, this is going to be a 2 episode. Okay, so we're still in the minors. So get me closer to when you're actually going to get called up to the majors.
So pitched well in 95. That year ends up going. I finished the year in Omaha, so that's good. And then I start 96. Still don't go to big league camp. I mean, even though as well as I pitched in Double-A and Triple-A, I'm not a roster guy yet because it's only my second full year. I was hoping to get a non-roster invite to big league camp. I did not. So 96, you know, I go to minor league camp just like everybody else.
It's still Baseball City.
Still Baseball City.
Baseball
Same thing.
City.
Yeah. So I ended up making the Omaha team. So now I know all the guys, and we're going to have a pretty good team. And the Joe Videos and the Joe Randas, and at least a lot of guys that have big league time, you know, are in Triple-A. So you kind of get that. And I'm still a young guy. I'm 24. And so go to Omaha, and I mean, I'm pitching well. I mean, I'm doing a good thing. And the crazy thing, finishing 95 in Omaha and then starting 96 in Omaha, I'm used to pitching in Omaha at the College World Series. You know, 20,000 people at the games in Omaha, and then
not the same atmosphere.
In the 95, there's 2,500 people at the game in Omaha. Maybe. So that was, if you're lucky. The only night that they ever had that was busy was fireworks. You know, 4th of July, that was busy. So it was a little bit of a transition to pitch at Rosenblatt Stadium without the pomp and circumstance that the College World Series has, but it was comfortable because I'd pitched there before. So
did you guys ever go over to the zoo?
Oh, zoo's awesome. I mean,
I go over there.
Yeah, all the time.
It was Hoppy there.
I gave a couple home run balls that are probably still in the zoo. Jesse Levis.
This is right there.
Oh yeah, it's right there. Well, that's why they tore Lawrence Dumont or Rosenblatt Stadium down. Eminent domain.
It's a shame too. That was a great stadium.
It was a great stadium. I've still not been to the new stadium. So
there's 2 of them. Right,
that's
another.
That's it for another podcast.
So 96, you're pitching
96,
well.
I'm leading the league in saves. I think I got 25 saves. Back then it was the American Association.
This is when we're really getting hot and heavy on that fucking Farm Report in the Star on Sundays.
Right.
This guy is putting saves up.
You're knocking on the door.
I remember the Rovin minor league. Jerry Cram, I think, was our Rovin minor league pitching coach, and Mike Alvarez was our AAA pitching coach. Again, I have Mike Jersley and Gary Lance, and I remember them coming down. I was a two-seam guy, and a slider guy. Not a bunch of change-ups and all that stuff, but I threw a lot of strikes, didn't strike out a ton of guys, and was successful closing. So the concern was I didn't throw that many change-ups, so what off-speed do I have other than a slider to get lefties out? So I remember one week the Roving minor league guy comes and says, all right, here's the deal. Every lefty that you face, you have to throw a change-up every pitch, regardless of the outcome. Like, I think it was a test. Are you going to be coachable? Are you going to do this, do that, do that? And that's one of the balls that's still in the zoo. A change up to Jesse Levis, the catcher from Buffalo. Killed an orangutan with the ball. But you know what? A week later, I get called up. So
how do you find out? Yeah.
Give us
so
that.
we're in Indy. We're in Indianapolis on the road.
They did it on Snapchat.
No.
There's no
well,
Snapchat?
shit, man. And we barely even had, I don't even know if I had a cell phone.
You can
back
get a cell
then.
phone then?
One of the things, I had a laptop. I was one of the few guys that had a
shit.
laptop.
Weighed
and we're in
400 pounds.
AOL, and you had to plug into the
Yeah.
Right.
But I had an external CD-ROM burner.
This
so you could
motherfucker is
burn.
high-tech.
Got it
Steven.
all.
My God, Napster was the deal, man. So I had all the music.
LimeWire?
I would act. It was before LimeWire. This was just Napster.
Straight Napster.
So I would rent my computer. I would go out drinking and doing whatever and
With those
partying,
stories coming.
because that's
Yes.
what I did, and I would rent out my
Computer
external
assembly.
hard drive for people to make mix CDs.
fucking
Like go
dangerous.
do that shit. But it
So
was fun.
you're sitting there. What day did you get called up?
I can't even remember what the day of the week
You're
was.
home or away?
We're on the road in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And I happened to be in my room, and that was the funny story. Mike Jersley called, and he's like, holy shit, man. You're
Right.
actually in your room. You're going to the big leagues, kid. Like, shut the front
So
door.
you get it on the phone.
Yeah. So Jersh calls me in my room from his room. He's like, pack your shit. Got to get to the ballpark and get all your stuff. You're on a 6 o'clock out of here to Anaheim. Like,
Oh, wow.
yes, man.
Indianapolis to Anaheim.
Indianapolis to Anaheim. So I got to meet up with the clubby and go to the ballpark and get all my stuff. And now I'm on the phone. My phone card is out. I don't have any more minutes on my phone card. So I'm trying to get a hold of my parents. And no sleep. I get up and fly to Anaheim, and I get a cab to the ballpark. I remember they dropped me off outside the right field line. They were doing construction on all the stuff that you now see in Anaheim.
Yeah, the
the
rock
waterfalls
thing,
and rocks
all
and all that shit back then.
Under construction.
So here I am with my luggage walking in. It ends up being the visiting bullpen, but that gate out the back goes all the way to the parking lot.
You don't even know where to go.
I don't barely even know where to go,
How do I get in this motherfucker?
So I'm with my luggage and we call it a horse blanket, our sport coat, which
Yeah.
probably isn't nice enough for the big leagues, but it's what I got in Omaha. And
So you
and
flew commercial out there.
So fly commercial and the guy holding the sign at the airport.
you had-
here-
they had a
here
little
we go.
driver
Oh,
guy
yeah,
to get
yeah,
you? Oh,
yeah.
nice.
So here I am walking down the right field line with my luggage,
Straight
and
to
my
the
shit.
ballpark.
Yeah, and so I know Todd Green with the Angels, and I know Mike Holtz because I'd played against those guys in college, and they're rookies, and they had just gotten called up, and they're like, hey, all this stuff. So I don't know most of the guys on the big league team
Because you haven't been in
because
big
I
league
haven't even
camp.
been to big league camp yet. The only guys that I know in the big leagues are the guys that had been in Omaha. And so I get there.
Who's up there?
I don't-
Johnny Damon's there, right? He's up?
Johnny's up.
And you had played with him?
Yeah, a little bit.
Double A?
I think Randa was up at
Randa's
the time.
up.
I think Vidiello was probably up
You
and
walk
down.
in the clubhouse. and you
So
see a
I walk
couple
in the
guys.
clubhouse, and I just nice to meet you, Bob Boone.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Come to my office, son. So
Bob Boone. What did Bob Boone tell you in his office?
Bob Boone says, "All right, here's the deal. Bip Roberts was on the team at this.
Leon Bip Roberts.
Yeah, Leon Bip Roberts. And so,
Interesting person.
So we had a couple pitchers, Julio Valera and another Tim Pugh, I think, at the time, and Bob's trying to explain it. Coach Boone is trying to explain to me that there was some roster snafu, and one of these two guys is maybe going to get sent down, but it's all predicated on if Bip Roberts goes on the DL or doesn't go on the DL. Like if Bip Roberts goes on the DL, you will stay and you will be active. If Bip Roberts does not go on the DL,
You're going back?
You're going back to Indy tomorrow.
Oh, shit.
Like shit, man, what the fire is going on here? And so, okay. That's it. So they'll make the determination.
What do? You got like an
after
hour?
BP, I got to go, go do the things. And
Oh,
so,
my
and
God.
as you know, just like I do, Bip Roberts was notorious for
Right.
being hurt and taking himself out of a
There
World
was
Series game.
yeah.
I didn't know any of this at the time, but Bip
Good chance you were making it.
I didn't realize that, but looking back 25 years later, so Bip goes on the DL. All right, you're active.
You're a major leaguer.
You're here.
No matter
You made-
what, you fucking got a day.
today. You're here today.
Yeah.
And so so the other pitchers, it was Tim Belcher and Jeff Montgomery and Mike Magnante and Hippolito Pichardo and that whole crew, and Monty's awesome. And so I'm the newest rookie. So like, hey, Bloom, since you're the new guy, you are going to go in a cow milking contest at home plate versus Mike Holtz, the rookie for the Angels.
They had a cow milking contest.
So they had a
in
cow.
Anaheim.
They had 2 cows at home plate.
What the fuck?
It's like a minor league fucking deal. Like,
Right.
what the hell's going on
This is
here?
fucking Los Angeles.
And so here I am sitting on sitting on the wooden thing with a wooden bucket, and at least I knew I'd been around a farm with
Yeah.
my Ben.
You got that
So I'm
teat.
doing, and so Mike Holtz, I know he's a redneck too. So
Yeah.
like shit, man.
It's a contest.
So and my cow kicks over and spills all them, and I lose.
Fucking bitch.
Fucking cow.
Utterly
So,
ridiculous.
Utterly terrible. And so I lose the cow milking contest.
There are
Mike Holtz
photographs of
wins.
this, I hope, somewhere.
I maybe.
Oh,
I don't
Jesus
even know. Nobody
Christ.
had cell phone cameras.
Yeah,
back
but
then,
that should,
so
that's an AP
somebody
photo.
in the archives of Anaheim Angels.
to have
Well,
that.
it was the lost. It was
And it was just the Anaheim, California Angels.
California Angels back
So
then.
this is a great point. We'll halt episode 1. You're
Okay.
in the majors, and you just
Lost the
milk
cow milking
a
contest.
fucking cow.
Yeah.
And then we'll pick up to when you make your debut and then get in some stories. And
Got it. There's a
can we
few.
do the next segment? I mean, the next episode next week.
You ain't leaving, are you? You come back.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
okay,
absolutely,
but what we'll do here is we'll end this first episode with a story. And it won't be chronological, just a story that I think will be entertaining for the viewer and listener. Let's talk about this fucking finger.
Oh, so
Let's talk about this finger. So now again, we're gonna pause where Bluma has been called up to the majors and he's just milked a cow. Now, we fast forward. And you were a regular guest on the show by the time this happened. And we'll get back and pick up next episode after he milks a cow and gets
the
on to the
baseball
majors.
side of things.
What the fuck happened with this finger?
All
So
right.
just take us through every
Can
detail
we
of
see
this.
this? I mean,
Hold it like
Hold it right in front of
this
this.
thing.
You know, it's a nub.
Yeah.
that is a fingernail actually growing out of the end of it.
And we have the picture. He's gonna. So we should be showing the picture right now of what's
Ben's got that.
what's left of the
So
other
I was
part of your finger.
employed at 68 Inside Sports.
Okay.
We have indoor batting cages. You know, obviously they're quite a ways up there.
Yeah.
What happens sometimes because the netting was getting old, there would get holes in the nets and the balls would shoot through the holes and it was breaking the lights above. So at some point we have to fix all the lights.
Sure.
And so to do that, you have to go and cut the net and blouse it down, you know, so you can get a zip lift up to fix the lights. So we're in the process of cutting that net to blouse, you know, to fold it down so we can get. So we've done that.
Who thought this was a good idea to have you do this?
I worked there. Who else was there going to do it?
I thought maybe there's a net blousing.
No.
Leva wanted you to
So
send
I-
some kids up there to do this.
Shit, no,
Okay, so you're up there.
So myself
This
and
guy can milk a cow. He can
Right.
fix the net.
our HVAC electrician guy, Sean Darling, I actually saw him last night. Sean's there. He's up on the zip lift, fixing the lights, you know, the things.
Big lights.
And I'm up on the extension ladder on an aircraft cable, you know, that the net is clipped to.
How high
And
up?
I'm 18 feet.
Okay.
18 feet with no safety harness or anything like that. I've done this a gajillion times,
Yeah.
you know, to put zip ties in to do the hole. So I'm up there on the top and I'm zip tying the thing back together and the ladder slips off the cable.
Oh no.
And I said, holy shit. And so in that instance, I have never been part of something that's 1,000 miles an hour and slow motion
Same time.
at the exact same time.
Right.
And I'm like, if I fall with the ladder like this, I'm maybe break my neck, probably break both my arms.
You're
I'm gonna
fucked.
fall on the ladder. I'm death is imminent.
Okay.
And I try to think quick. To the only thing I can think of is if I quick reach up and try to grab a hold of that
cable, it'll
and
hold
maybe
you.
the entire system kind of goes collapsing.
But it
on
slows
me.
you down or
But
something. Yeah.
It'll be on
something.
a comfy net.
Something. And so I reach up there and I reach for the cable. Next thing I know, I'm falling straight up and down instead of falling forward like, you know, I'm going to fall on the ladder.
Okay.
And my feet hit the ground, my knees buckle, and my face hits the ground. And so now I'm down. And I stand up and I'm not paralyzed.
Right.
And
All right.
I'm like,
I made
okay. And I knew I had done something and my foot's all kind of fucked up looking, I don't know what direction it's kind of,
Right.
something's wrong with my right
You
foot.
want to see some feet pictures?
So
Steven's got some.
I'm looking down at my foot And as I look down at my foot, my finger's gone. Like my finger's gone. So it's just white bone and blood squirting out of the
squirting out of
end.
there.
Like no finger. The end of it's gone. Like, oh shit.
And you
So
look down, you see blood
and
shooting
blood.
out.
It was like a cartoon, you know,
Yeah.
like on television.
But was it? Were you in shock? Did it hurt real bad? Or you
No,
just
I
said,
didn't
okay.
feel. I hadn't felt it at all. I didn't even know I had done that to my finger. I was worried
Right.
about my foot
So you.
and my nose because I'd hit my face on the ground. You know.
But
Yeah.
what? So what the fuck? What happened?
Like,
what the fuck happened to your finger?
I didn't know at the time, and so I quick go like this.
Direct
and-
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so somebody goes, grabs a bag of ice. I walk out of the batting cages and sit down in a chair. They called 911.
That's right.
And so that they come get me, put me in a neck brace, put me in a bodyboard. I mean, they don't know if I have internal injuries. They don't know if
Right.
I've ruptured a kidney. You know, I had no idea. And so Overland Park Regional, you know, they're on Quivira and 435.
You
And
took an ambulance ride.
yeah. And
yes.
so I have a picture, and I'll find it. I'll have to send it to you. I took a selfie in the ambulance, you know, because I had to get a hold of my mom and dad. And so my buddy Shane Cordes, you guys know Shane Cordes. So to this day, when I call Shane Cordes, that's the picture that comes up on his phone. So every time Shane answers the phone, he's laughing hysterically, and I forget why.
There's your dumbass
He's got
in
the
the
picture of
ambulance.
me in a neck brace, bloody face, in the ambulance. And so
Who found the finger?
it ended up being underneath the ladder.
Okay.
They found it about a half an hour later. I think it was probably Charlie and Sean Darling and Kathy that works over at 68.
But they were looking for the finger, and they find
maybe
the finger.
They could reattach it, and they get it to the hospital, and they're like, "No, it's contaminated. You know, we can't."
Fucking dirty finger.
We had dirty.
How much of the finger are we talking about here? Just the.
Just a tip.
So on this, if you can see it in the camera, so on this side of my finger, it tore all the way down to that knuckle. On the other side, it took my nail off, and right above that. So you can see in the pictures as Ben puts it up, the amount of skin on one side versus just the nail on the other side.
So they get to work with a little plastic
And so,
surgery?
yeah, so the next day. So anyway, that was the most pain was that night because I got to wait and have surgery the next day. And I'm like, well, you know, what are we going to do with surgery on my finger? So what they did was they ended up taking a skin graft
Right.
from the inside of my right forearm and, you know, put a flap.
Put a little
of skin.
wrap on there.
And I said, why there? And the guy said, no hair.
Oh.
I said, oh, man, that would have been awesome if I had a
Hairy-ass
Sasquatch
finger?
Yeah, like a Sasquatch finger. So they do the skin graft, all that stuff, and the healing begins. And thank God I can tell
Yeah.
the skin graft takes. And man, but about 2.5, 3 weeks in, the end of my finger is killing me. Like, what the fuck, Doc? And I go back in there, and Doc's like, that's that nail
It's going to come out.
trying to come through. He's like, dude, nail beds are so bizarre. He's like, you never know. You mean, obviously you ripped your entire nail off because I've seen
But there's
it.
a little seed down
So
there.
I have the finger it's in a specimen jar in my freezer to this day.
You have the finger still in a jar in your freezer.
Yes, I do.
Can you
And
send a picture of that when you get home so we can post that?
I think I mean, I
Okay,
can.
good.
It could
very
be on the
good.
screen right now.
Okay, good.
So you
Right,
got to
hold
clip
on.
that thing?
Yeah, I do. I got to clip it.
So is that? Well, let's see what kind of nail. What are we talking about here? It's like just a
Little
little,
fingernail.
Yeah, a little.
like a little scratcher,
like
or
a
a little.
little toe, you know, like a little.
You put a little
Yeah,
tap,
hold on,
tap.
hold on.
There you go.
Oh, shh.
So,
Bang.
but is it like a stylus for your phone? Does it work that way?
No,
it's
it
not.
doesn't have the
does
juice
not.
in it, man.
And I can't really feel anything on this side of my finger, so every once in a
Now,
while, I mean, I'll
can
get
you
it
throw
caught in
some
the door.
special pitches?
So now I throw like a spike curveball,
Yeah.
like a knuckle curve with just one finger behind it, and it get pretty good spin. I had a pretty good knuckleball at the time, but now I don't because I can't really.
So
Right, it
that
doesn't
wouldn't have
get down.
helped your pitching career.
No,
that would
I
have.
think. I mean, Bob Wickman. You remember Bob Wickman?
Sure.
Wickman was missing part of one finger. That's why I had a really good cutter.
Antonio
but
Alfonseca
Yeah, he
had
had six fingers.
Six. Actually, I tried to text in the
So
other
if
day.
you
You guys
got-
couldn't figure that out on your
If you're,
on your thing. I wasn't quick enough to the drill. So
you know, baseball players are known for scratching their balls. Is that help you scratch your balls, or is that because I can
watch that nail.
That looks like a
Yeah,
little
be careful.
scratcher though.
So, I mean,
that could, that could
the thing is
get in there.
It's a great tool when I'm doing camps. If you want the wet willy,
Oh,
in your
yeah.
ear with the nub, they straighten up.
Yeah.
They straighten up
Right.
because you don't want that little
Get the nail
that
in there,
little
too.
nubber, the narwhal. Man, that's what my buddies
But
call
have
it,
you
the
found any
narwhal.
use for it that
All right.
you something you couldn't do before with this unique scratcher?
I mean, the
user?
shocker's now tapered. There it is.
Oh my fucking!
That's
and you-
why it's a podcast.
So why do you
Yeah.
still have that fucking that finger? Is there
that's
plans
mine.
for that?
I
or-
mean,
Well, I don't know.
The most recent thing is I have a good friend, and you've been to Bloomapalooza where we make the bottle cap art. He has a circular globe that we are going to put it in acrylic.
Oh yeah, you could just have acrylic in there.
And so you guys that like your bourbon, you have the one large ice cube, and maybe I'd throw that.
cube?
Yeah.
Maybe you're drinking your.
That's a good drink.
And you look
What the
down,
fuck is in here?
there's my finger. You know, like when we were kids in the comic
Yeah.
books where you get a fly and
Right,
Sure.
a square ice cube. When you
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a fucking fly in my drink.
Yeah, well, this is going to be my finger inside of acrylic globe.
There's a lot of good
Not a
ideas
snow
there,
globe,
right.
Yeah.
But
acrylic.
we will get that.
That would be
done.
good too, a snow globe.
But the
snow
thing
globe,
is
you
I
shake it
have
out.
to. First, and Emily's like, hey, I have to get it out and I have to let it thaw out and dry before
Right. It
we
goes
put it in
into
the
acrylic.
acrylic. So I'm not sure exactly.
What
'cause it's
color is
been
it
in the
now?
freezer.
What's it look like
It's
now?
nasty looking. I mean, you can
Not
see.
great.
Not great. No. I mean, there it is.
Let's see. Let me take a look at this.
Oh, it's not great. It doesn't look like a finger.
Oh, fuck.
So that's the nail.
Right up here.
So that's the nail right there with the ice crystals on it, and you can kind
Does
of
it
see.
still have some netting in it?
So there's some backside. I mean, you can see. You can actually see.
I got it. I got
Yeah,
it.
you can
Yeah.
see.
Oh, that
the
looks good
fingerprint.
there.
Yeah, there's the skin on the
That's
other side.
reasonable. I mean, that
Yeah. So
So you don't have a fingerprint now on that middle finger.
I do not.
you can commit some crimes.
That's his crime finger.
right.
Yeah, that's the wet willy with the
Okay,
wet
so
willy with the narwhal.
So we'll break for this episode. Next episode, you come back.
well, I got
and then it'll be-
many other injuries to talk about.
No,
I mean,
we
about
got
the
plenty.
blown knee,
We haven't even gotten
and
to
the
blown knees, you're
Achilles.
saving someone's life.
Oh,
We
man.
got all kinds of shit.
Got a lot
And then
of
we'll
shit.
get into the majors and everything else. But before we let you go, promote Bloomapalooza and your charity endeavors, because that's what you're known for now in Kansas City. And we want to take every opportunity to tell people about that. So where can people find out more about Red, White, and Bluma?
So Red, White, and Bluma is my actual 501c3. You can go to redwhiteandbluma.org, or you can go to bloomapalooza.com. That is actually the event that I have every September 24th this year, 2022. Bloomapalooza is a concert slash auction slash raffle slash food trucks slash drinking party
Slash
that we
booing
have.
us on stage.
Slash all sorts of stuff. I've been fortunate enough to be able to do Red, White, and Bluma. Has been around for 9 years. This will be the 9th installation of Bloomapalooza. We have raised $360,000 with the sole intention of give it away. And I try to support a lot of local national military organizations, Folds of Honor being the first, Veterans Community Project, War Horses for Veterans, Warriors Ascent, and other local Kansas City charities. I mean, ALS is one that's near and dear to your heart. Live Like Luke is another one here in town. Variety, Kansas City. They help kids with mobility issues, and on and on and on. So I with the sole intention of just giving that money away to people that need it.
And where do you give lessons now?
So I give lessons at Home Field. Home Field, we have a couple locations. We're in Olathe. What used to be Benchmark Furniture is now our Olathe location, 2115 East Kansas City Road.
Do they ever ask you to blouse the net?
No,
Go up
no,
and fix
I have
the
no
lights?
ladders
No?
for me anymore.
If you'd
no.
like a wet willy from Bluma,
So you can check us out at homefieldkc.com. The neat thing moving forward is we are the organization that is developing the site that used to be Schlitterbahn out of the Legends. That is going to be a youth sports destination.
Oh, that'll be
full
good.
complex. We're going to have a Margaritaville hotel. There's going to be indoor-outdoor training facilities, fields, and all that stuff. I mean, that's a $650 million plus project moving forward. I think we broke ground recently, and looking for all that to get going over there. And we also have a facility on 435 in Bannister, across from Home Depot.
So-
a lot of volleyball and stuff over there too.
Next week we'll pick up after you milk the cow, and now you're a major leaguer, and we'll go from there.
Bob Boone stories.
And we'll talk Bob Boone story and more
Boone stories,
more
got some
Bluma injuries.
Shilly Davis stories.
But nothing will match the finger, the old finger trick that Bluma can do. That's Jamie Bluma. That's Todd Lebo. Until episode 2 with Jamie Bluma. The microphone is off.